And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at the newest set for Dice Masters, the Mighty Thor! With Thor Ragnarok out, really, you can guess every set that comes out these days by what movie is out in the theaters at any given point in time. But this is Thor. I'm excited about that. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so first let's take a look here at the dice. I think the nicest die in this set is the Enchantress die, translucent green with yellow. It really pops. Thor's die himself looks pretty good, as does this one here. I really like how this one looks. Malekith, kind of a lame bad guy, but a pretty cool looking die. And so none of the dice look really bad. You can see there's a lot of different colors, pretty easy to tell apart, and that's what the dice look like. Okay, so first let's take a look here at Thor himself. I managed to get the ultra rare of Thor. I think there's 8 ultra rares per set these days. And so here you can sacrifice him to prevent damage. That's pretty cool and heroic. I don't know how often I'll use it. Here you can redirect damage to Thor. And then we also have the new Thor here. When she attacks and KOs someone, she gains 2 life, so that's pretty cool. We have Solter, who gets +2 attack and defense for each opposing character die. And since he starts at 8/8, he can be so powerful. Hopefully he'll never get Overcrush. This guy does double damage to villain character dice. Samantha Williams, when you field a sidekick die, you draw and roll die. That's pretty neat. Ragnarok, which I think this is referring to the robotic Thor from Civil War. That might have been his code name there. But anyway, he does 1 damage to everyone else when he attacks. Punisher, I've never seen this particular Punisher in the comics, but when she does damage, you can purchase another Punisher die. Pepper Potts, when she's the only character, she's +3/+3. Also means you're in some severe trouble. Odin here, when everyone else gets +1 attack, +1 defense. Nick Fury can kill a level 1 villain die. Mr. Fix-It, one of the versions of the Hulk, when he's damaged, he basically doubles his attack. Or here, when someone else gets knocked out, he gets +2 attack, +2 defense. Mjolnir, or Thor's hammer, however you pronounce it, kills all level 1 character dice other than Thor. That's interesting. Wrecker gives your other villain dice +1 defense. Malekith, this is the other ultra rare I got. When he uses an action die, you can add it to the bag at the end of the turn, which I really like. This one I would like to use because I like action dice. Here's another version of him. When you use an action die, prep a die from your bag. She can't be blocked by someone who's a higher level. Here, when fielded, you lose life equal to her defense, which is interesting because her defense can be pretty high. But still, for 2, to get a 3/1 out there for free, or a 3/2, well, it's not for free. You're paying life. I don't know how often I would use her. Jane Foster here, when she's KO'd, she's an ally, by the way. She can bring out a Thor character die, so you basically put her on a team where you want Thor out. Iron Man, who apparently his drinking card is good, gives him a global ability. Hulk, this card's interesting because this is definitely She-Hulk, I'm sure. In fact, it says Savage Shulky. But there's no she here, they're just calling her Hulk. I'm not quite sure why. It even looks like it's off-center, like there should be she there. Maybe she is the Hulk now in the comics? I don't know. Anyway, when someone uses a global ability, she goes up a level. Hela, when she's fielded, each person can prep 3 non-sidekick die, the Death Queen. This guy here, character dice with purchase cost of 4 more, costs 1 more, so he's all about having decks that are cheap. Enchantress, when an opposing die is fielded, it does 1 damage to everybody else. And anytime some of your person's damage, she can prevent that. The Destroyer, he has to attack this one here. He can turn into a villain. Daredevil, not sure how often he deals with Thor, but he does double damage to certain people here, or villains. Crystal, when she's active, when you roll, you can re-roll your dice an additional time. Chipmunk Hunk, now here's a character I've never heard of. Maybe he's a friend of Squirrel Girl? Anyhow, when he's the character die, when he's the highest purchase cost, he gets +2 attack, +2 defense. So at the beginning of the game, he can be really useful. Yeah, I mean, if he's your highest one, then you better get some other things together. Blackheart shows up, helps your other villain characters out. Daredevil's a billy club. I like to give this to Thor just because. But they basically just take someone out of the battle for a while. Beta Ray Bill, one of my favorite characters. Prevent the first 2 damage to him. Balder, when he's blocked, you can bring, and they're both KO'd, you can bring him back. Thor Buster Iron Man. I didn't know there was Thor busting Iron Man. I know there was a Hulk Buster one. But this one gets +4 attack and +4 when blocked by Thor character dice. Very specific. I'm not a big fan of the very specific cards. And U.S. Agent, where you can sacrifice a sidekick die to bring in 2 extra things. So now let's take a look at some of the new keywords that are in this set. And so the first keyword is deadly. Now, we've seen deadly before. Deadly is essentially poison or whatever. If you deal damage to someone, they die. So there's a couple people who are deadly. And Fandrill, the Warriors 3, you know, there's cards for the Warriors 3 where they work together. Soltor brings in the breath weapon. This had only been in the Dungeons & Dragons set so far, where he can pay to do 2 damage to your opponent and everyone else. That's kind of interesting. Very expensive. Volstagg has Overcrush, and again, he can give the other Warriors 3 Overcrush. This set's really kind of pushing you to use the Warriors 3, which I'm not opposed to. And then the other one here, Hogan, while he's active, the other 2 get +2 attack, +2 defense, and get intimidated. The problem is these are all costs of 5, so having all 3 of them out there is cool, but that's an expensive dice to get. Volstagg also has a card with Immortal on it. Now this set has a lot of cards with Immortal on them. When an Immortal die, when it dies, instead of going to your use pile, it goes back into the bag, which can be really, really handy. And so you can see here, the Thor is Immortal, so is Volstagg. She can't be damaged by villains. Here's another Thor who is Immortal. Sif here is Immortal. And if Thor's around, she's +3 attack. Odin here is Immortal. Loki's Immortal, where you can cancel global abilities. Hogan here is Immortal. The Heimdall is Immortal. And also when he's KO, draw a die. And if it is an Immortal die, you get to field it for free. So he does stuff with other Immortal dice. This guy here, the highest purchase cost must attack him. Balder, when he's blocked, he gets +2 attack until the end of the turn. So there's lots of Immortal characters. Then there's characters who deal with Immortal. So here's Jane Foster. She's an ally. And when she's active, your character dice with Immortal have a fielding cost of 0. So that's pretty powerful. Here, if you have Immortal, you get +2 attack, +2 defense, and you get Overcrush. And then this one here, you can purchase an Immortal die for 3 less. You're going to see that one used in decks for sure. When Loki's here, Immortal dice only do 1 damage, so he's like an anti-Immortal. Here you can draw dice, and you can field them for free if they're Immortal. Here she gets +1 attack, +1 defense for each different Immortal you control. Thor Buster does damage to Immortals, like this one here. So there you have it. All right, now let's take a look at my 10 favorite cards from this set. So first we have one of the Jarnbjorns and my axe. Of course, I like that phraseology here. This says replace target character's attack with double it. Basically, you double someone's attack, which is, I don't know, I just like that sort of thing. Malekith here, he makes your sidekick a dice, get +1/+1, and turn them into villains, which means if you have a nice little villain setup, as long as your opponent's not going after villains, this can be amazing. Crystal can turn question marks to sidekick faces. This can be pretty handy. You know, sometimes you're trying to roll a sidekick, and she allows you to do that. I also like this other Crystal card. When your opponent rolls dice, if they roll a character die on level 3, they have to re-roll it. That is amazing. Your opponent will hate this character. And Chipmunk Hunk, if you watch a previous set where I saw how much I like bringing tokens into play, he does the same thing here. He brings in Chipmunk tokens. Maybe I'll use him and Squirrel Girl together. Absorbing Man, who is one of my favorite characters from the Marvel Universe, and he can copy basically the attack and defense person to the person he's blocking. I like that. The Bifrost Rainbow Road, where you can, when you field a character die, you can move a copy of that character die from your use pile to the field zone at the same level. Basically, you can like duplicate somebody, which is a really neat idea. Another Absorbing Man. If someone else uses a when KO'd effect, you can do that too. Really like that one. And number 2, Nick Fury, when he is facing an opposing villain, and you're both active, he can field character dice for free. That is huge. He can bring in the Avengers or all kinds of powerful people. And my favorite is Pepper Potts. She cannot attack. However, when she is active, you get to draw an extra die at the beginning of your clear and draw step. If it's a non-sidekick die, prep it. That's really cool, really fun. I like that, drawing extra die and getting it out there. Yes, she can't attack. She's weak and pathetic on this die. Not very useful at all, but bringing in other dice is a really neat ability. So again, this isn't based on the Marvel comic universe, but they do manage to get a lot of people from the Marvel comic universe. And then they got people in the set that don't make sense. Like, why is Daredevil and his Billy Club in a set about Thor? Who knows? But Heimdall, Thor, the Lady Sif, Hela, they have a lot of the characters that you saw in the movie are in here. But they're from the comic book versions. There's also, I really like, there's a lot of female characters in here. I've not heard of the female Punisher before, but hey, she's here. We got the new female Thor, and I mentioned She-Hulk and Sif and Hela, and there's just a lot of people in here, and I like that. The diversity is great. The abilities of this set, the Immortals is cool. I like it. It's a good thing. You can build decks about that. I don't necessarily like that stuff that's against Immortals, because how do you know your opponents are going to have that sort of thing? I do think it's weird to give you a little card with all the different keywords, but they don't have all the keywords. Like, they don't have Intimidate. They have one, Underdog, which is from a previous set, but I didn't get any cards in my box that had Underdog on them. So it's always weird to me that they have a couple keywords that are on so few cards, and then they have some keywords that aren't. But regardless of that, I like this set. It's pretty straightforward. The characters are pretty easy. You have a bunch of gods fighting a bunch of bad guys, essentially, and you can mix and match, and there's nothing that's weird or strange. The Immortal things is very straightforward and easy to play with. Most of the cards are very, there's some of the global abilities on them, but not too many. There's a lot of stuff that's not heroes. There's the Rainbow Road. There's the Hammer of Thor, there's the other hammer, there's the Billy Club, and so I like having these different things that you can attach to characters and stuff. A pretty solid set. I really enjoyed it. Definitely want to check this one out. The Mighty Thor.
Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.